Hello and welcome. Our guest today is WTO Chief Economist Patrick Lowe. Patrick will be discussing the 2010 trade figures and offering the projections for 2011. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you.
The economic crisis of 2008 and 2009 had a profound impact on trade flows. With the recovery, what have we seen in 2010 with respect to trade figures?
Trade grew in volume terms by 14.5% in 2010, which is a record growth rate. We've never seen a growth rate like that. But we have to contrast it with the 12% fall that occurred in 2009. And I think we also should remember that even with that 14.5%, given the contraction of 2009, we have not attained the trend growth rate from looking back to 2000.
So this is a bit of a blip then, a bit of an anomaly with respect to the pattern we've seen historically going back the last couple of decades.
Yes, and we don't expect such huge changes to occur often.
Did we see in 2010 a continuation of the trend whereby the trade expansion in developing countries outstripped that of the advanced countries?
Yes, in 2010 the 14.5% breaks down into a 13% growth rate for industrial countries and a 17% growth rate for developing countries. Now that trend will continue for some time, but recent work by economists Green and Shin basically looks at how the level of income in a country affects its growth rate. And they've come to the conclusion by looking at a lot of episodes in a lot of countries that once income gets to a figure around 16,500 per capita, you have a slowdown in growth rates. There's an inevitable link between how rich a country is and how fast it expands.
This is a study at the University of California,
Yes.
Berkeley.
Yeah, by Green and Shin, yes.
What are the projections for 2011?
We're predicting for 2011 a growth rate of 6.5%, which is still higher than the average since 2000, but once again we're still off trend growth because of the dip. And of that, I think 4.5% would be attributed to industrial countries and 9.5% to developing countries.
The economic situation in recent years has been volatile. So far, in this still young 2011, we've had a series of dramatic events that have taken place. The catastrophe in Japan, as well as the deeply uncertain political situation in North Africa and the Middle East. Have these events made it more difficult for you and your team to project trade growth in 2011?
There is certainly more uncertainty than we normally have to deal with in the 2011 forecast. There are, I would say, greater downside risks on that forecast than upside possibilities. And this indeed is because of questions about what will happen to the oil price and also the fallout from the tragic events in Japan. The uncertainty about the Japanese situation is accentuated by the nuclear incident. And so at the moment, our forecast factors in the fall in Japanese output and trade that is likely to occur. But we think that these results will in part shift the composition of trade and therefore not affect so much affect the overall rate of growth. But we also think that there will be pent-up demand, and when Japanese production comes back online, especially in components, we'll see a jump in growth.
And of course, further complicating this is the central role that Japan plays in the global supply chain.
Yes, indeed. So where manufacturing in other places depends on these inputs, there will be disruptions, there have been disruptions. On the other hand, in cases where Japanese exports are final goods, there are possibilities of switching, at least in the short to medium term, and so it'll be a mixed picture. But where production chains are affected, there will be pent-up demand, and as output gets back online in Japan, we'll see an upward trend in expansion. So overall, we don't really think that it's going to be a huge impact in the next, well, this year or in certain coming years.
Patrick, thank you, and thanks to you for watching.
Thank you.